Hey, tonight, a collection of horror stories. Just listen. And if you make it to the end, subscribe. I didn't believe in anything I couldn't explain. Ghosts, curses, déjà vu. It all sounded like cheap excuses for people who couldn't face reality. But there's a point where reality itself starts to feel off. Like you're walking through a dream that doesn't know it's supposed to end. That's what happened to me last winter just off Highway 17, near a small town called Bremer's Pass. You won't find it on most maps. It's one of those towns that seems to exist only for gas stations and motels. I was driving from Denver to Portland for work, 3 days of rain and fog, and I was dead tired. I pulled into a place called Red Pine Motel, 6 rooms, a flickering neon sign, and a lobby that smelled like wet carpet and old coffee. The woman at the desk barely looked up from her crossword when I asked for a room. She said, "Room 9's open. Try not to wake him up." I thought she was joking, but her eyes didn't say joke. When I asked, "Who?" she said, "The man in 10. He doesn't sleep well." That should have been the first red flag. Room 9 looked like time had forgotten it. Faded curtains, dusty carpet, a humming mini fridge that couldn't get cold anymore. But it was warm, and it was quiet, at least at first. Sometime after midnight, I woke up. I didn't know why. The heater was off. The rain had stopped. But I had that feeling, the one that crawls up the back of your neck, that something in the room had changed. The only light came from the parking lot, bleeding through the blinds. And in that thin slice of light, I saw a shadow. Someone standing just outside my window. Tall. Still. Facing the glass. For a moment I froze, thinking maybe it was a trick of the trees. But then the shadow moved. Slowly. Deliberately. A hand, pale, bony, reached up and pressed against the window pane. No sound. Just that faint squeak of skin against glass. I jumped up, heart hammering, grabbed my phone. No signal. When I looked back, the shadow was gone. I opened the door, looked outside. Nothing. Empty parking lot. Rain puddles reflecting the neon sign. No footprints in the mud. I didn't sleep again that night. Next morning, the woman at the desk asked if I saw him. Her tone was casual, like asking if I'd tried the continental breakfast. When I told her what happened, she nodded slowly and said, "He shows up when the fog comes in. Always the window first." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. She didn't laugh back. She just handed me my receipt and said, "Most people only stay one night." I drove out that morning, but about 20 miles down the road, my engine started overheating. No reception, no passing cars, so I turned back. The weird thing was, when I pulled into the motel again, the woman at the front desk wasn't there. Same desk, same crossword, but the pencil was snapped clean in half. I knocked on the office door. No answer. Room 9, my room one, was open. Inside, everything looked the same, except for one thing. On the nightstand was a small black and white photo. It was me, standing by the window, taken from outside. I don't remember leaving the lights on that night, but in the photo, my silhouette is lit perfectly, like I'm posing. There was a note under it, in shaky handwriting, "He's not outside." I dropped the photo and ran to my car, but when I looked up, room 10's curtain moved. Someone was watching. The fear was so sharp it made me dizzy. Part of me wanted to drive away, but another part, the stupid, curious part, had to see. I walked over, pushed open the door. It wasn't locked. Inside, it smelled like damp paper and mildew. No luggage, no clothes, just one chair facing the window. On the wall, dozens of photographs, all black and white, each showing the same thing. The motel parking lot. Different nights, different weather, but in every single one, there was a figure standing by room 9's window. Sometimes close, sometimes far, sometimes right against the glass. My stomach turned when I realized, in the most recent photo, that figure was standing exactly where I was now. In this room, looking out, I backed away, tripped over something, a suitcase. Inside it, a stack of papers, police reports, missing persons from the last 10 years. Every one of them was marked with a red pen. Last seen near Bremer's Pass. Then I heard it again. Tap, pause, tap, tap, from behind me. I turned. The chair was empty. but the window was fogged. And on the glass, written in the condensation, were the words, "Don't leave." That's when the lights went out. I ran, stumbled through the door into the rain, jumped into my car, and peeled out onto the road. Didn't look back. Didn't stop until I hit the next town. I told the sheriff what happened. He gave me this look, not disbelief, more like exhaustion, and said, "That place hasn't been open in years." I told him that was impossible. I'd stayed there. I had the receipt, the key. But when I reached into my pocket, the key was gone. He showed me photos. The motel had burned down in 2009. An electrical fire started in room 10. One man dead. His name was Holloway. That night, in the cheap motel I ended up in, I couldn't sleep. Every sound, the creak of pipes, the wind, felt too deliberate. And when I finally got up for a glass of water, I caught something in the mirror, a reflection of my window, and a faint pale hand pressed against the glass, just for a second, then gone. I still don't believe in ghosts, but I believe in places that remember, and I think the Red Pine Motel remembers everyone who ever stopped there, even the ones who swore they'd never come back. You ever see a place that feels like it's waiting for you? Not haunted, not exactly, it's just aware of you. That's how I'd describe the house on Route 41, the one everyone calls the house on the bend. I've been driving that road between Townsend and Ashfield for years. Work, errands, family. It's my shortcut through the back roads. It's nothing special. 2 lanes, no lights, a few cornfields, a small bridge, and one sharp turn right before the forest line. And right on that turn, just where your headlights catch the curve, sits the house. You'd miss it during the day. The paint's gray, the roof's half gone, weeds taller than the porch. But at night, when the world's quiet, you can't help but notice it. Because sometimes, in the upstairs window, there's a light, a faint yellow glow. Soft, flickering, like an old lamp someone forgot to turn off 50 years ago. First time I saw it was 5 years ago. Middle of winter, snow in the ditches, radio humming static. I rounded the bend, and there it was. One single window lit up in an otherwise dead house. I slowed down, thinking maybe a squatter had broken in. But as soon as my headlights touched the front door, the light went out. I told myself it was nothing. Reflection, maybe a passing car. But I didn't pass anyone that night. The second time I saw it, it was raining. Sheets of it, like the sky was trying to erase the whole road. I caught the same glow again, just for a second. And I could have sworn I saw a shape move across the window. It wasn't enough to make out details, but it looked like someone standing behind the curtain, watching the road, watching me. That night, I didn't sleep well. Dreamed of yellow light and rain hitting glass. When I woke up, I told myself it was stress. But then it kept happening, every few months, like clockwork. Only at night, only when I was alone. Always the same window, same glow, same quiet pull in my chest telling me to stop. I tried to ignore it, but curiosity eats at you. So one summer night, around 11, I pulled over. Parked just past the bend, hazards on, engine off. The air was still. No wind, no crickets, no distant cars. Just silence and the faint hum of my cooling engine. The house sat there like it was pretending to be asleep. The light was on again, and this time, I could see movement inside. Slow, steady, like someone pacing. I grabbed my flashlight and got out. The gravel crunched under my shoes, too loud in the dark. As I walked closer, the smell hit me. Damp wood, mold, something sweet underneath, like old perfume. The front door was open just a crack. Inside was cooler, air heavy and wet. My light caught the wallpaper peeling in long strips, the color of dried leaves. And there, on the far wall, hung a single photograph. An elderly couple, smiling, holding hands in front of this very same house. Behind them, barely visible in the reflection of the window glass, was a third figure, blurry, tall, standing just inside the doorway. My first thought was that it was a trick of the light, but then I realized something. The doorway in the photo looked exactly like the one I was standing in. Same frame, same peeling paint. Only in the photograph the door was closed. I stepped back, my light shaking. That's when I heard it. A soft sound upstairs, a creak, then another. Footsteps, I froze. The beam of my flashlight trembled against the staircase, dust motes swirling in it like smoke. Each step above me came slow and careful, like someone trying not to be heard. I called out, "Hello?" Voice thin, weak. No answer. The footsteps stopped, and then, From upstairs, the light went out. Total darkness. I bolted out the door, nearly tripping on the porch. When I turned back, the house was completely black. But the strange thing? For just a heartbeat, I could have sworn the reflection of my car's headlights showed someone standing in the upstairs window. A tall figure, pale face, still as stone. I didn't tell anyone about it. It sounded crazy even in my head, but every time I drove past after that, I could feel eyes on me. A pressure, like when someone's watching you in a crowd. Then, about a year later, I learned something that made my stomach drop. An old coworker, David, was from Ashfield. When I mentioned the road one day, he got real quiet. Then he said, "You mean the house on the bend?" I nodded. He said his uncle used to live near there in the 80s. According to him, there was an accident. A car hit the guardrail on that curve one night. Driver died instantly, a woman. The story goes she lived in that house, and after her husband passed, she'd sit by that upstairs window every night, waiting for him to come home. After the crash, people started seeing the light again, always in that same room. No electricity connected for years, but the lamp still came on. I laughed it off, but inside, I felt sick, because every time I'd seen that light, it was raining. And the night she died, it had been raining too. A few weeks ago, I drove that road again. Late, as always. The house looked smaller this time, the porch completely caved in, but the light, that soft yellow glow, was still there. I slowed down, couldn't help myself, and for the first time the curtain moved. Someone, something, pulled it aside. It wasn't the shape I'd seen before. It looked like a woman, thin and pale, wearing something old-fashioned, maybe a nightgown, her head tilted just slightly, as if she recognized me. Then she raised her hand, palm toward the glass, slow and deliberate. I don't remember driving home. All I remember is that when I got there, the smell of damp wood and perfume followed me inside. That night, around 3 a.m., my house went dark. Power cut out for exactly 1 minute. When it came back, my phone lit up on the nightstand. New photo in the gallery. It was my living room, taken from the stairs, and in the window, faint but visible, was that same yellow glow. The light from the house on the bend. I used to think the human mind could get used to anything. Noise, loneliness, routine. You tell yourself it's fine long enough, it starts to feel normal. But sometimes what you call normal is just the shape your fear takes when it gets tired of screaming. I moved into the building 3 years ago. Downtown Chicago, old brick, good rent, terrible insulation. The kind of place where you hear everything. Pipes groaning, elevators sighing, neighbors arguing through the walls. At first, the noise bothered me. Then it became background, like the hum of a fridge, until it didn't. It started about 6 months ago. A faint thump. Then another, like someone moving furniture upstairs. That would have made sense, except I lived on the top floor. At first, I ignored it. Cities have noises. Buildings settle. But the sound came every night. Always after midnight. And always the same rhythm. Slow, deliberate, like footsteps pacing above me. I told myself it was pipes expanding with the temperature, or a raccoon in the attic. I even laughed about it at work. Ha! My building's haunted, I'd say. But I stopped laughing when I realized it only happened when I was home. If I left the apartment, silence. The moment I came back, the noise started again. I asked the landlord if there was any crawl space above my ceiling. He frowned, said, "No, the roof's flat. Maintenance goes up there sometimes, but not at night." He looked uneasy, like he didn't want to keep talking about it. That was the first time I noticed how tired he looked, like he hadn't been sleeping much either. A few days later, I got home late, around 1 a.m. The noise started right away. Thump, pause, thump, thump. This time it wasn't footsteps. It sounded like something heavy being dragged. I turned off all the lights and stood in the center of my living room, listening. It stopped. The silence was so complete, I could hear my heart in my throat. Then came a single, sharp knock, right above me. I froze. The next morning I went to the roof. It was empty. No footprints, no tools, no sign anyone had been there. Just a thin layer of dust. Untouched except for one set of faint tracks leading to the edge. They stopped right before the drop. That night, I pushed my couch under the spot where the knocking came from, just to see. At 12:43 a.m., it began again. Soft, careful, almost polite, like someone testing to see if I was awake. I stared at the ceiling until dawn. Over the next week, I stopped sleeping. My coworkers noticed, said I looked pale, jittery. I started recording audio at night, trying to catch the noise. But every time I played it back, there was nothing, just silence. One night, I left my phone recording and went out to a diner, just to test it. When I came back, everything was quiet. I checked the file. For the first 3 hours, nothing. Then around 1:17 a.m., there was a faint scraping sound, like a chair being dragged. Then a whisper, so soft I could barely make it out. Just one word, hello. I dropped the phone. I told myself it was interference. Maybe someone on another floor, maybe static. But when I checked the waveform on my computer, the sound came from inside my apartment. After that, I stopped trying to record it. Whatever it was, it wanted to be heard. A few nights later, I woke to the sound of running water. Kitchen faucet, full blast. I stumbled out of bed. The handle was bone dry, no water dripping. But the sound was still there. It seemed to come from behind the wall. I pressed my ear against the tile. There was something underneath the rush of water. A low hum, steady and wet, like someone breathing through a mask. I don't know how long I stood there before realizing I was whispering back. Not words, just sound, matching the rhythm. When I caught myself, I felt sick. Like I just answered something that shouldn't have been asked. The next morning, the landlord left a note under my door. Stop complaining about noises. There are no noises, no signature. I tried to confront him, but the office was empty. Door locked, blinds drawn. His phone disconnected. The building felt different after that. Colder. Quieter, but not in a comforting way. More like it was listening. That night, I turned on the TV just for company. But every channel was static. Even streaming apps froze, buffering endlessly. Reflection of my own tired face staring back at me from the black screen. At 3:02 a.m., the noise started again. Thump, thump. Then, 3 slow knocks on my ceiling. I looked up, and for the first time, I saw something move in the plaster. A faint bulge, like pressure from above. Then, a crack. Hairline spreading across the surface. Dust rained down. I grabbed my coat, keys, ran out into the hall. But the hallway was wrong, too long. Dim yellow lights stretching forever. I tried the stairwell, locked. Tried the elevator, dead, and the noise followed me. From above, always above. When I finally reached the street, the sun was rising. Everything looked normal again. The building, the city, the people. I must have looked insane, standing there barefoot, covered in plaster dust. I never went back inside. I stayed with a friend across town. Tried to explain, but the words sounded ridiculous out loud. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about that sound. The dragging, the footsteps, the whisper. I started hearing it in new places. Through vents, in passing cars, even when someone walked overhead in another building. It wasn't tied to that apartment anymore. It was tied to me. I went back one last time, just to see if the noise was real, if anything was. The landlord's office was empty, door unlocked. Inside on the desk was a single folder. No papers, no files, just an old photograph, a man standing on a roof, directly above an apartment window. My apartment. He was looking down, hand raised as if knocking. The date on the photo was from 1982. That building doesn't exist anymore. I found that out last week. It was demolished 5 years ago, condemned after a structural collapse. But every night, right around 12:43 a.m., I still hear it. Faint, patient, directly overhead. Thump, pause, thump, thump. Sometimes I knock back. You ever see your reflection do something you didn't? Not a trick of light, not a glitch in your head. Just a split second when you're sure the person in the mirror moved first. That happened to me last summer. I was driving from Nevada to Utah. Long stretch of nothing but dirt, heat, and distant mountains that never seemed to get closer. I'd been on the road 10 hours straight. The sun was going down, and the air felt heavy, like the whole desert was holding its breath. Then I saw the sign. Mirror Motel, vacancy, cold AC. The neon flickered, but it was the only light for miles. I pulled in. The place looked old, maybe 1960s. Rows of doors painted that faded mint color. Half the bulbs burned out. A plastic ice machine wheezing in the corner. The clerk was an older woman with gray hair and a smile that didn't quite fit her face. She didn't ask for ID, just said, "Room 7's open. You'll like the view." There was no one else there. Inside, the room smelled like dust and bleach. One bed, one lamp, and a full-length mirror across from the door. The kind of mirror you don't think about until you realize it's facing the bed directly. I showered, lay down, tried to sleep. But the hum of the air conditioner and that faint, buzzing neon outside made it impossible. Sometime after midnight, I rolled over and saw something move in the mirror. It wasn't me. I was lying still, but my reflection wasn't. It turned its head, slow, deliberate, and looked right at me. My throat locked. I didn't even breathe. The reflection smiled, a small, knowing smile, then tilted its head just slightly, like it was listening to something I couldn't hear. And then it raised a hand, my hand, and pressed it flat against the glass. I didn't move, couldn't. After a few seconds, it lowered its hand, turned away, and lay back down. Like nothing happened. I stayed awake until morning. When the sun came up, everything looked normal again. The mirror showed me, just me, pale, exhausted, ridiculous for being afraid of my own reflection. At the front desk, I told the woman there must be something wrong with the mirror. She looked at me for a long time and said, "You're lucky. Most folks don't see it before it steps through." I laughed, or tried to. She didn't. I left right after. Didn't even bother asking for a refund. About a week later, I checked my phone. I take a quick photo in every motel I stay at. Just a habit. So I looked for that night, scrolled back. There it was, a photo of room 7, empty bed, mirror in the background. Only thing is, there was someone standing in the mirror, back to the camera, hands at their sides, head tilted, just slightly. I don't take mirror shots anymore. A few months later, a friend of mine was passing through Nevada. I told him the story, even sent him the photo. He said he'd check the place out for me. He called that night. Said, "Man, there's no mirror motel out here. There's just a burned down lot by the highway. Hasn't been open in years." I told him he must have missed it. He swore he didn't. Then after a long pause, he said, "Hey, there's something weird. There's a big cracked mirror sitting in the dirt. Looks old, like someone left it behind." I told him to get back in the car and drive. Fast. That was 3 months ago. I haven't heard from him since. Last night, I was brushing my teeth before bed, and for a split second, I saw something behind me in the mirror. Not moving, just watching, and when I turned the light off, the reflection didn't. You ever notice how some places just hold things? Not memories, not ghosts, just a kind of weight. Like the air remembers what happened there, even when people don't. That's what the river in my hometown is like. Cold, slow, always a little too quiet. It winds behind the trees, past the mill, past the bridge where the asphalt starts to crack. If you stand there at night, you can hear it breathing. I grew up in a small town in northern Pennsylvania. Population maybe 2,000, counting the dogs. Everyone knew everyone. And everyone knew Lila. Lila was the kind of person you didn't forget. Red hair, chipped blue nail polish, always barefoot even when it snowed. She lived 2 streets over from me. We went to the same school, worked the same part-time job at the gas station on Route 11. And then, one day, she was gone. That was summer 2015. Last time anyone saw her was a Thursday night. She'd told her mom she was walking down to the river. Just to cool off, she'd said. She never came back. They searched for weeks. Helicopters, dogs, volunteers, all combing the woods. Nothing. Not a shoe. Not a piece of clothing. Just her phone, found by the old water tower, screen cracked, still glowing faintly when they picked it up. At first, the police thought she'd run away. But she'd left her bag, her ID, her cash, even her sketchbook. Lila never went anywhere without that. After a while, people stopped talking about it. Life went on, but not for me. See, there's something I never told anyone. Something I saw that night. It was late, maybe midnight. I couldn't sleep, so I went for a drive, windows down, music low. When I passed the bridge, I saw someone walking along the shoulder. Red hair catching the moonlight. It was Lila. I slowed down, rolled the window halfway. I almost called out, but something stopped me. She was barefoot, her clothes soaked, clinging to her. And she was smiling. Not a normal smile. The kind you give when you're trying too hard to seem okay. I drove past. Didn't stop. I told myself I'd imagined it. But the next morning, when I heard she was missing, I knew. And I said nothing. For years, I kept quiet. Moved away, got a job, tried to forget. But you can't really forget something that's waiting for you to remember it. Last winter, I went back to visit my mom. The town looked smaller, quieter, like it had been holding its breath all this time. I couldn't resist. I drove down to the river. The bridge was cracked now. The guardrail bent where a truck must have hit it years ago. I parked, killed the engine, and listened. The water made that same low, steady sound, like it was whispering under its breath. Then I saw it. Something pale on the far bank. It looked like fabric at first, tangled in the reeds. But when I got closer, I saw it was paper, a page from a sketchbook. Water-stained, but the drawing still visible. A landscape. The river, the bridge, and someone standing on the shore. Me. My name was written in the corner. I don't remember breathing for a few seconds. I just stared, and then, like the world shifted under me, I realized there were more pages, scattered in the grass, half buried in mud, each one showing the same thing. The river, the bridge, me. Only in the last few drawings, I wasn't standing anymore. I was lying down, half in the water, eyes closed. I gathered the pages and took them home, but by morning they were gone. No trace. Not even the mud stains on my hands. That night I woke to a sound. Slow, steady dripping. When I turned on the light, there was water pooling under the bedroom window. And written in the condensation on the glass was one word. Stay. I moved out of that house a week later. Haven't gone back to Pennsylvania since. But sometimes when I drive late at night and pass a stretch of dark water, I see her. Just a flash of red hair in the corner of the headlights. Barefoot, walking along the shoulder, smiling. And I always look away. Because I think, if I ever meet her eyes again, she'll ask me why I didn't stop. You ever live somewhere long enough that you start noticing the things you were never supposed to notice? Like you realize the streetlights don't flicker at random. It's always the same ones. Or the same car passes by every night at the same time. That's what happened to me. That's how it started. It was spring, 2022. I just moved to a small town in Oregon. Quiet, forest on one side, empty fields on the other. Perfect for a fresh start, or so my therapist said. I'd been through a rough breakup and needed quiet. The house I rented was small, a one-bedroom bungalow on a cul-de-sac with 5 other houses. And right across the street was another one, pale yellow, blinds always shut. At first I didn't think about it, until I realized the lights were always on. All night. Every night, same glow from the upstairs window, faint and steady. I figured someone worked nights or couldn't sleep. But after a few weeks I realized something strange. I'd never actually seen anyone go in or out. No car in the driveway, no mail delivered, no movement, just that light. I asked my neighbor, an old man named Bill, if he knew who lived there. He looked at me funny and said, "Nobody's lived in that house for years. Got condemned after a fire." I laughed. Thought he was joking. The place didn't look burned. Paint a little worn, sure, but solid. That night, I checked again. Lights still on, curtains still drawn, and I swear, for half a second, I saw a shadow move across the window. I told myself I was imagining things. But it started happening every night. Sometimes I'd see the shape of a person, standing perfectly still in that upstairs room, always watching the street. One night, I decided to film it. Set my phone on a tripod by the window, hit record, and left it running overnight. When I checked the footage the next morning, I almost dropped my coffee. Around 2:47 a.m., the figure moved, walked out of frame. Then, about 10 seconds later, the camera shook, like something had brushed against the lens. And then, the angle changed. Now it was facing me. From outside, the rest of the video was just static. I deleted it, told myself it was a glitch, maybe reflection from a car, but I couldn't sleep anymore. Every night that light stayed on and that shadow kept watching. I stopped opening my blinds, stopped going outside after dark. Then one morning, I woke up to find muddy footprints on my porch, leading to the door, and a small piece of paper tucked under the doormat. It said, in neat handwriting, "We see you too." I called the police. They came, checked the property across the street. When they came back, the officer looked pale. He said, "That house is empty. Has been for years. No furniture. No lights connected. Power's been off since 2013. I showed him the light through my window. He looked, and there was nothing. No glow, no shadow, just darkness. I thought maybe I'd lost it. I started writing everything down. Times, dates, what I saw. For a while, things calmed down. No lights, no movement. Then one night I woke to a sound. A slow, rhythmic tapping from the window. When I pulled the curtain aside, the house across the street was dark. But the reflection in the glass, it wasn't mine. Someone was standing behind me, close enough that I could see the shape of their shoulder beside mine. But when I turned, no one was there. That's when I started sleeping in my car. Couldn't stand the idea of being inside that house at night. I'd parked down the block, engine running, just watching. Around 3 a.m., I saw it again. The light upstairs, flickering. Then the front door opened, and someone stepped out. They didn't move like a person. They just appeared. One moment inside, the next. Standing on the porch. Facing me, I turned on the headlights. The beam hit the yellow house full on, and it was empty. No door, no windows, just a blank wall where they should have been. I drove until sunrise. Didn't stop until I hit Portland. Checked into a motel and called the rental company the next morning to cancel my lease. They told me there was no record of a tenant at that address in years. Said the property had been demolished after a gas leak back in 2014. I asked about the cul-de-sac. The woman on the phone paused, then said quietly, "That whole block doesn't exist anymore." I drove back once, months later. Curiosity, I guess. But when I got there, it was just a field. Tall grass, no road, no houses. Still, sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I see a faint yellow glow through my curtains. And for a second, I could swear there's a house across the street again. Light in the upstairs window, waiting. You ever hear something on the radio that you can't explain? Not static, not a song, something else. Something that feels like it's meant for you? That happened to me once, and I haven't turned on a radio since. It was late September 2021. I was driving through New Mexico, Route 54, on my way to visit my sister in Santa Fe. Middle of nowhere, just desert, moonlight, and a straight stretch of highway that felt like it would never end. No cars, no towns, not even billboards. Around 11:30 p.m., I lost cell signal. Didn't think much of it. But after another hour of silence, I started to feel that strange pressure of being too alone. You know the kind, where you turn the radio on just to prove there's still a world out there. I hit the power button, expecting the usual static. But instead, a voice came through. Clear as day. "Good evening, traveler," it said. "Welcome to station 103.6, the road home." I froze. The tone wasn't like a DJ. It was calm, old-fashioned, like a man reading from a script he'd written himself. Then came soft music. Old country. Maybe from the 1950s. Warm, familiar, but the weird thing? The signal was perfect. Not a single crackle, even out there in the desert. After a minute, the voice returned. "You've been on the road a long time," it said. "Take a break. There's a rest stop ahead. You'll see the lights soon." I remember thinking, how the hell does he know I'm driving? But I looked up and sure enough, in the distance I saw lights. A gas station, a small one, half lit. An old sign that said Route 54 Service and Cafe. I hadn't seen it on any map, but it felt real enough. The kind of place that looks like it hasn't changed since the 70s. I pulled in. One pump, an old diner with red booths and dusty windows. A payphone by the door. There was a faint glow inside, so I figured it was open. But when I walked in, it was empty. No cashier, no sound. Just that same old country song playing softly. Not from a speaker, but from a radio on the counter. Same station, 103.6, the road home. Then the voice spoke again, from the radio right in front of me. "Coffee's fresh," it said. "Second booth from the window." My stomach dropped. I looked, and there it was. A half-full mug of coffee sitting on the table. Steam still rising. I backed toward the door. The voice kept talking. "You've been tired," it said. "You should rest a while. You don't have to keep running." I didn't know what it meant by running, but something in that tone made my skin crawl. Like it wasn't an invitation. It was an order. I turned and bolted out to my car. The moment I stepped outside, the radio inside the diner screamed. A burst of static so loud it made my ears ring. Then, through the noise, the voice again, deeper this time, almost distorted. "Don't go." I started the car. Pedal down. Didn't look back until I'd driven at least 20 miles. When I finally did, the lights were gone. No gas station, no rest stop. Just the desert, stretching endless under the moon. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely steer. Then the radio in my car came back to life on its own. The same voice, but softer now. "Safe travels, friend. You'll come back when you're ready." I slammed the power off and drove the rest of the way in silence. When I told my sister the story, she didn't believe me. Said it must have been a dream from exhaustion. So I tried to prove it. A week later, I drove back the same route. Same road, same hour, nothing, no lights. No station at 103.6. Just static all the way through. I asked a few locals in Alamogordo if they'd ever heard of the road home. Most shook their heads. But one old guy at a truck stop stopped eating when I mentioned it. He said, "You heard them too?" He told me he used to drive freight at night in the 80s. Said sometimes late on Route 54, that same station would cut through the static. Always the same voice. Always calling drivers to stop and rest. He said people who pulled over there didn't always come back. I laughed it off. Until last month, I was driving late again, through Arizona this time. New car, new life, hadn't thought about it in years. Then, out of nowhere, the speakers hissed, and I heard that same voice. Low, calm, familiar. "Good evening, traveler," it said. "Welcome back to station 103.6, the road home." I looked at the dash. The radio wasn't even on. And just for a second, in the distance ahead, I thought I saw lights. A little glow off the side of the road, like a diner window waiting for me to stop. I worked the night shift at a gas station in Utah for almost 3 years. You learn a lot about people when you see them at 2 in the morning. Truckers with empty eyes, kids trying to look tough while buying beer with fake IDs, lonely old men who just want to talk. But there's one person I'll never forget, and I hope you never meet him. It was February, snowing hard, middle of nowhere. We were the only station for 50 miles. A single building lit by buzzing fluorescent lights and that cheap neon sign that says open 24 hours. My shift ran from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. quiet most nights. I'd mop the floors, stock shelves, listen to static-filled radio, try not to think about how alone I was. That night started like any other. I remember the time because I'd just poured a fresh pot of coffee, 1:42 a.m. Then the motion sensor by the door beeped. Someone had pulled in. Through the window, I saw a car. An old gray sedan, headlights still on, engine running. But no one got out. I waited. Nothing. After a couple minutes, I stepped outside to see if they needed help. The snow was falling thick, and I could barely see. But the car was there, idling, empty. Driver's door wide open, lights on, heat still running. I called out, "Hey, you okay?" But the wind swallowed my voice. I leaned closer and saw something on the passenger seat. A wallet, driver's license inside. Name Ryan Cooper, early 30s. Photo looked normal. Then I noticed footprints. Fresh ones leading away from the car, not toward the road. Into the field behind the station. I should have called the cops right there, but I didn't. I just told myself maybe he'd gone to take a leak or something. So I went back inside. A few minutes later, the security monitor flickered. The camera pointed at the back of the building. Static, then movement. A figure, standing just at the edge of the light. He wasn't moving, just watching. At first I thought it was my reflection, some glitch. But then the figure tilted its head, like it knew I was looking. I grabbed the phone, no dial tone. I tried my cell, no signal. When I looked back at the screen, he was gone. I locked the doors, turned off the front lights, and hid behind the counter. Minutes passed, long enough that I started to think maybe it was nothing. Then came a soft tap on the glass door. I froze. Another tap, then a voice muffled but clear. "Hey, can you help me?" My car broke down. I peeked over the counter. It was a man, mid-30s. No coat, no hat, just standing in the snow like it didn't bother him. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I saw the shape of his mouth when he spoke again. "Please. It's freezing out here." Something was wrong with the way he moved. Too still. Too deliberate. Like every gesture was practiced. I said through the glass, "Stay there. I'll call someone." He smiled, didn't move. Then, softly, he said, "You already have." He pressed his hand to the glass, and that's when I saw it. Blood. Dark streaks across his fingers. I backed away, grabbed the baseball bat we kept by the register, but when I looked again, he was gone. Just footprints in the snow leading around the side of the building. I went to the monitor. Static again. Then, him, standing by the back door this time, closer. The handle rattled once, twice, then stopped. I waited for hours, it felt like. At some point, exhaustion took over. I must have dozed off behind the counter. When I woke up, it was morning. Sunlight poured through the windows. The car was gone. No footprints, no blood, nothing. I thought maybe I'd dreamed it. Until the sheriff came in. He asked if I'd seen anyone strange during the night. Said a man named Ryan Cooper had been found dead 30 miles up the highway. His car abandoned, engine running. Exactly like the one I'd seen. I showed him the tape. He watched it quietly, arms crossed. Then he looked at me and said, "There's nothing here." I played it again. No static, no figure, no man at the glass. Just me, standing there talking to an empty door. The sheriff patted my shoulder, told me to get some rest. But before he left, he paused, looked back, and said something I still can't shake. "You're not the first one to see him." After that, I quit. Moved 2 states over, started working days. But sometimes when I fill up my tank late at night, I feel it. That same cold stillness. Like someone standing just outside the circle of light, waiting. Last month, I got a letter. No return address. Inside was a photo. Grainy, printed from a security camera. It was me, sitting behind a counter, eyes half closed, and in the window behind me, a man, hand pressed to the glass, smiling. You ever live alone long enough that you start talking to yourself? You catch your reflection in the microwave door, or in the black screen of your TV, and for a second it feels like someone's listening. That's how it started for me. I moved into that building in 2019, a 5-story apartment block on the edge of Cleveland. Old brick, thin walls, that faint smell of boiled cabbage that clings to every hallway in cheap housing. I was on the 4th floor. My job was remote. Data entry, endless spreadsheets, so I barely left the place. For the first few months, it was fine. Quiet. Predictable. Until someone moved in upstairs. It was small things at first. Footsteps around midnight, water running at odd hours, a scraping sound, like furniture being dragged across the floor. Normal apartment noises, right? Except, the building manager told me no one had rented that unit. "Place is sealed," he said. "Pipe burst last winter. Can't even turn the water on." I thought maybe he was mistaken. But one night around 3 a.m., I heard the footsteps again. Slow, heavy, pacing back and forth directly above me. Then something fell. A sharp thud, like a body hitting the floor. I sat up in bed, heart racing, listened. Then, a sound that froze me completely. A low, drawn-out moan. Not pain exactly, more like effort, like someone trying to move something heavy. I called the building manager again. No answer. So I went upstairs. The 5th floor hallway was dark. Only one working bulb, flickering. Apartment 5B, the one above mine, had a lock rusted shut. But from inside I heard it again. That slow, dragging sound. Then, whispering. I knocked. It stopped immediately. Then, very quietly, something knocked back. 3 times, I ran. The next morning, I told myself I'd imagined it. Sleep deprivation, work stress, the usual excuses. But the noises didn't stop. Every night between 2 and 4, the same pattern. Footsteps, dragging, silence, knocking. Always in 3s. I started recording it. Left my phone on the table overnight. When I played it back, it wasn't what I expected. There were sounds, yes, but not footsteps, not furniture. It was me, my own voice, whispering over and over. Let me in. I didn't remember saying it, didn't remember getting up, but I couldn't deny it. It was my voice. The next night, I locked my door, pushed a chair under the handle, and stayed awake until 4 a.m. No sound, nothing, until I looked up and saw a wet stain spreading slowly across my ceiling. Drip, drip, each drop hitting the carpet in perfect rhythm with a faint knocking sound above me. I called 911, told them I thought someone had broken into the sealed unit. When they arrived, they broke the lock on 5B. The door creaked open, and a wave of cold air came rushing out. Inside, it was empty. No furniture, no lights. Just one thing in the middle of the room. A single old mattress, soaked through, sitting directly above where my bed would be downstairs. The cops looked around, found nothing else. Said maybe squatters had gotten in before. They left. I didn't sleep that night. At 3 a.m. the knocking came again. Not above this time. From inside my apartment. Behind the closet door. I told myself not to open it, but I did. Of course I did. The closet was dark, except for a faint shimmer on the back wall, like water reflecting light. I stepped closer. The shimmer moved, And in that surface, for a split second, I saw myself. But not exactly. My reflection was smiling, and then softly it whispered, "You let me in." I don't remember much after that. When I woke up, it was morning. The closet was dry, no stain on the ceiling, no noise upstairs. The manager says apartment 5B doesn't exist, that the building only has 4 floors. He even showed me the blueprints. He's right, there's nothing above my ceiling but air ducts. But every night I still hear it, that slow, steady knocking, always in threes. And sometimes when I'm half asleep, I feel a cold drip hit my face from nowhere, like something seeping through a ceiling that shouldn't be there. I tried moving out, packed my boxes, signed a new lease across town. But the night before the movers came, I woke up to the sound of footsteps. Not above, but right beside my bed. A voice, close enough to touch, whispering with my own breath, "You let me in." The movers found the boxes still there, my bed made, front door locked from the inside. They said the apartment was empty. But sometimes, when the new tenants complain about the noise upstairs, the manager just nods and says, "Yeah, happens sometimes." You ever drive through Kansas at night? Miles of nothing. Just black sky, flat earth, and the wind pressing against your windows like it's trying to whisper through the glass. There's something about that emptiness that makes you feel small, like the world has forgotten you exist. That's where it happened. That's where I saw the light. It was 2018. I was working as a delivery driver for a small logistics company, hauling medical supplies between states. Night shifts paid better, so I took them. Less traffic, less people, just me, the truck, and the road. That night, I was running a route from Topeka down to Wichita. It should have taken 3 hours. It took me 10. Around midnight, I hit a stretch of road called County Line 42. Locals told stories about it. People seeing strange lights, hearing voices in the wheat fields. I laughed it off, but halfway through, the engine sputtered, coughed, and died. No signal, no lights around for miles. Just the truck and me in the dark. I stepped out, flashlight in hand. The air was too still. No wind, no bugs, no sound at all. I popped the hood, pretending I knew what I was doing. That's when I saw it, a glow in the distance. At first, I thought it was a farmhouse. A single light, hovering low over the field, soft and steady. But it wasn't flickering like a bulb. It pulsed. Slow, rhythmic, almost like breathing. I told myself not to be stupid. Maybe someone could help. So I grabbed my flashlight and started walking toward it. The ground was uneven, the wheat high enough to brush my shoulders. Every few steps, the light would dim, then swell again, like it was watching me. After about 10 minutes, I realized something strange. No matter how far I walked, the truck's headlights never got smaller. The light in the field wasn't getting closer either. It just stayed. Then the air changed. The smell of ozone, sharp, electric. My flashlight flickered and died. And I wasn't alone anymore. I heard it first. A rustle, like someone moving through the wheat behind me. Slow, deliberate steps. I turned, shining the dead flashlight like it would help. "Hello?" I called out. Nothing. The steps stopped, and then something whispered. It wasn't words at first, just a tone, like someone exhaling right beside my ear. Then it came again, clearer this time, and in a voice that sounded almost like mine. "Don't go any closer." I froze. The light ahead pulsed faster, brighter, casting shadows across the wheat. In one of those flashes, I saw shapes moving inside it. Human shapes, a dozen, maybe more, all standing perfectly still, facing me. Every instinct screamed to run, but my legs wouldn't move. The whisper came again, right behind me. "Turn around." I did. And there, maybe 10 feet away, was a man. Or at least something that looked like one. Pale skin, no eyes. Just smooth skin where they should have been. And a mouth that didn't quite close. He pointed toward the truck and said in that same half-breath voice, "Go home." The light flared, and I don't remember running, but suddenly I was back at the truck, keys in hand, engine roaring like it had never died. The road ahead was empty, but in the mirror, the field was glowing white. I drove until sunrise, didn't stop until Wichita. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. When I got to the depot, the dispatcher looked at me like I was crazy. "Where the hell were you?" he said. "You were supposed to be here 5 hours ago." I showed him my dash cam. Thought I'd caught something. But when we played it back, the footage was nothing but static from midnight to dawn. No breakdown, no light, no voice. The next day I went back. Couldn't help it. But County Line 42 didn't exist. Not on any GPS, not on any state map. Locals said there was never a road there at all. Still, sometimes, when I drive through Kansas, my radio cuts out around mile marker 87, and if I look to the east, across the empty fields, I swear I can see it. That faint, steady glow pulsing in the dark. Always the same rhythm. Like breathing, I don't stop anymore. I just keep driving. Because whatever that light is, I think it remembers me. I used to think evil had a shape, something you could spot from far away. A knife in someone's hand, a face on the news, a monster under a bed. But I learned something different that summer. Evil doesn't have fangs or claws. It just smiles at you from across the counter and asks how many nights you'll be staying. It was the summer of 2012. I was driving cross-country, from Oregon to Virginia. My dad had just passed away, and I didn't really know what to do with myself. So I packed a duffel bag, grabbed some cash, and told myself the road might help me think. You ever do that? Drive just to drive, hoping the sound of the tires will drown out everything in your head. 3 days in, I hit Nevada. Endless desert, heat waves on the asphalt, nothing but power lines and dust. I was running on fumes when I saw a neon sign flickering in the distance. Bluebird Motel, vacancy. It looked half dead. A couple of rooms, a cracked pool, and a front office with an old soda machine humming beside the door. But I didn't care. I just needed a bed and a shower. Inside, the place smelled like bleach and cigarettes. Behind the counter was a man, maybe mid-40s, heavyset with a tan that didn't look natural. He smiled when I came in, but it was the kind of smile that didn't reach the eyes. Long drive? He asked. Yeah, I said. Just one night. He slid me a key on a cracked plastic tag. Room 6. Don't mind the noise, he said. Pipes rattle sometimes. When I got to the room, the air was thick and stale. Peeling wallpaper, brown carpet, a bedspread that might have been older than me. The bathroom light flickered when I turned it on. But I didn't care. I showered, lay down, and was asleep in minutes. Sometime around midnight, a sound woke me. A soft thump, then another, coming from the room next door. I figured it was just the pipes, like he said. But the rhythm was too steady, like footsteps. Then I heard a muffled voice, a woman's voice. I sat up. Another thump. Then something that sounded like a cry, smothered fast. I hesitated, listening. Then the footsteps moved, out into the parking lot. I pulled the curtain back a little. The front office light was still on. The man from the desk was outside, dragging something, a large dark bag, toward a shed behind the building. Something inside it moved. I froze. He opened the shed door, shoved the bag inside, and shut it. Then, as if sensing me, he turned. For a second, I thought he was looking right at me. Then his eyes shifted, and he just stared at room 7, the one next to mine. I let the curtain fall. My heart was hammering so hard it hurt. I didn't move until I heard his footsteps fade. I told myself to get out, now. But my car keys were on the nightstand, and my shoes, by the door. Every small sound felt like it could give me away. Then came another noise, a faint knock from the adjoining wall, 3 slow knocks. Then a whisper. Help me, I didn't move. Didn't breathe. The whisper came again, a little louder. Please, help me. I grabbed my phone. No signal. Of course, I wanted to answer her, whoever she was. But I couldn't. I was afraid he was still outside, watching. After a minute that felt like forever, I heard the sound of a car starting. The old engine of his truck. Headlights flashed across my window, then disappeared into the dark. He was gone. I waited 5 minutes, maybe 10. Then I went next door. The door was locked. I knocked softly. No answer. I tried the handle, and it opened. The room was dark, except for a small lamp on the floor. And the smell, metallic, sharp, blood. The bed was soaked. Sheets twisted like something had fought there. And against the far wall, a suitcase open. Inside, a purse, clothes, and a photo of a young woman with red hair. I backed away, my mind screaming to run, to drive, to get out. But then I saw something else. The bathroom door, closed, and from behind it, that same faint rhythmic thump. I whispered, "Hello?" The thumping stopped. Silence. Then the door creaked open. No one was there. Just a cracked mirror, and on the counter, another key, plastic tag. Room 8. I didn't want to look, but I did. Through the open bathroom window, the shed was visible. The door was still shut, but something pressed against it from the inside. Slowly. Pushing. I ran. Didn't even grab my bag. Just bolted to my car, engine screaming, tires kicking up dust as I tore down the highway. In the rearview mirror, the motel got smaller and smaller until it vanished into the night. I didn't stop until sunrise at a diner 50 miles away. Called the police, told them everything. They sent officers. 2 days later, one of them called me back. Said they found the Bluebird Motel, abandoned. Said it had been closed since 1998. No guests, no owner. No building standing except the sign. I told him that was impossible. I stayed there. I saw it. He asked me what room I'd been in. When I said room 6, he went quiet. Then he said, there were only 5 rooms. That was 13 years ago. I don't drive at night anymore, but sometimes, when I'm on a long road and the radio cuts out, I catch a flicker of blue neon in the distance. And for a second I swear I can see that sign again. Bluebird Motel. Vacancy. I keep driving. Because I know if I ever stop, someone will be waiting at the counter, smiling that same empty smile, and asking me softly, how many nights will you be staying? You know, people think losing your mind happens all at once. Like a light switch, click, and you're gone. But that's not how it works. Madness doesn't come crashing down. It seeps in. It's a slow leak, a steady drip in the back of your skull that you can't plug. Until one day, you realize the sound isn't coming from outside. It's dripping inside your head. That's what happened to me. At least, that's what I think happened. A year ago, I moved into an old Victorian house in New Hampshire. Big place. 3 floors, 12 apartments, all carved out from what used to be one family mansion. I'd just gotten out of a bad breakup, and the idea of silence, real silence, felt like salvation. The landlord, a thin old man with cloudy eyes, gave me a good deal on a 2nd-floor apartment. It's quiet, he said, but you'll hear the house sometimes. Don't worry, she settles at night. I didn't ask who she was. Maybe he meant the building, maybe not. The apartment was fine. High ceilings, wooden floors, and a faint smell of cedar. But one thing struck me as strange. There were no mirrors. Not a single one. Not in the bathroom, not on the closet doors, not even a scrap of reflective glass. I asked the landlord about it. He just smiled. Tenants prefer it that way, he said. Helps you sleep better. At first, I laughed it off. I bought a small mirror the next day, the kind you hang over the sink. And that's when things started to go wrong. It began small. When I looked into that mirror, I noticed the reflection lagged, just for a split second, like bad video. My head would move, and a heartbeat later, the reflection would follow. I blamed the lighting, the old wiring, my eyes. Then I started waking up at 3:17 a.m. every night. Always 3:17, no sound, no dream, just awake. The apartment would feel colder, heavier, as if the air itself had gained weight. And from the bathroom, faintly, I'd hear dripping. I'd check the sink, the shower, the pipes, everything dry, but the sound stayed. A few nights later, I caught something in the mirror that shouldn't have been there. Behind me, a figure, standing in the doorway, too tall, too still. But when I turned around, nothing. Just the empty room and my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I covered the mirror with a towel. Didn't help. At 3:17, the towel would fall off by itself. Every single night. One morning I went downstairs to talk to the landlord, but his office was empty. No one had seen him for weeks. The mail piled up under his door. Other tenants started leaving. I didn't know why. The young couple across the hall, gone overnight. An old woman from the 3rd floor, vanished, leaving her door wide open. Inside, everything was perfectly clean, as if she'd never existed. After that, I stopped sleeping. I kept hearing whispers coming from the walls. Not words exactly, just intent. Like someone trying to get my attention through drywall. Then one night, I decided I'd had enough. I'd move out in the morning. But that night I woke again at 3:17. The air was freezing. And in the mirror, the towel was gone. I forced myself to look. The figure was there again. But this time, it was closer. Standing right behind me, its head almost touching mine. Only it wasn't someone else. It was me. My reflection was smiling. I wasn't. I froze. The thing in the mirror tilted its head, studying me like an insect. Then, it raised its hand, slowly, and pressed its palm to the glass. The surface rippled. Like water, I ran. Slammed the bathroom door shut, pushed a chair against the handle. All night I sat there, staring at the crack under the door, waiting to see if a shadow moved. When dawn came, I packed my things. But when I opened the door to leave, the hallway was gone. Only darkness beyond the threshold. Black and endless, like the inside of a throat. I slammed the door again, gasping, turned back, and saw something that made my stomach turn. The apartment was reversed, like someone had flipped it. Left became right, right became left. Every detail mirrored, except the mirror itself. It hung there, bare now, shining faintly, and inside it, the real apartment. I could see my bags on the floor, the real door, the real light coming from the window, and I could see myself, standing there, looking terrified, pounding silently on the glass. But I wasn't moving anymore. Not really, I was on the wrong side. That was 3 months ago. I don't know how I'm still speaking to you. Maybe I'm talking through that thin layer of glass, and you're on the other side, listening. Maybe you think this is just a story, something for your channel, something to fill the silence. But tonight, when you finish this video, do me a favor. Go to your bathroom. Look at your reflection, just for a second. And if the person staring back doesn't blink when you do, turn off the lights and leave the room. Because once the mirror notices you, it doesn't forget. You know, I hesitated to tell this story for a long time. Some things are better left inside. Let them rot there, instead of dragging them out and facing what you saw. But sometimes the nights get too long. Sometimes silence is worse than the horror itself. So listen, and don't interrupt. It happened 7 years ago, when I lived in a small town in Pennsylvania, near an old stretch of highway everyone called Route 79. A cursed road, if you believe the locals. Accidents, breakdowns, disappearances, like the road itself demanded blood. But I didn't believe in that kind of nonsense. I was a long-haul bus driver. That road was my routine, mile after mile, night after night. Driving a bus is loneliness on wheels. You pass hundreds of miles, houses where only the kitchen light burns, farms where even the cows are asleep, and you keep driving, listening to old radio static and thinking how your life quietly dissolves into the dark. I drank too much coffee and slept too little, and it was on a night like that it began. It was mid-November, almost dawn. Rain had been falling for 2 days straight. The road slick, headlights dirty, wipers tired. There were only 3 passengers, a young couple and an old woman with a shopping bag. Everyone was asleep. Even the radio barely whispered, afraid to wake the night. I was passing through an abandoned stretch, a place where a gas station, a motel, and a bar used to be long ago. Now just a rusted sign with half the letters missing. And right there, on the curve of the road, I saw her, a woman standing by the shoulder. Rain pouring down, no umbrella, no coat, soaked to the bone, but motionless. Just standing there, like she was waiting. I slowed down, don't even know why. Maybe out of habit, maybe out of guilt. Always help if you see someone on the road, they said. Or maybe something else made me stop. When I got closer, she raised her hand. Not like someone hitchhiking, but slowly, deliberately, pointing right at me. And that's when I felt it, the cold. Not from the rain, from something else, something wrong. I stopped the bus, opened the door. She stepped inside, no words. She just walked to the very back seat and sat down. I started driving again. Didn't ask where she was going. Didn't even want to turn my head. In the rearview mirror, I could see her silhouette. Wet hair, dark dress, hands folded in her lap. Head down, perfectly still. After a few minutes, I realized the silence had changed. Too quiet. I looked, and the young couple was gone. Their seats empty, no bags, no footprints, nothing. I slammed the brakes, jumped out of my seat, and went down the aisle. Only the old woman remained, clutching her bag. She looked up at me, her voice shaking. "You shouldn't have let her in." "Who?" I asked. She just lifted a trembling finger and pointed to the back. I turned. The woman was standing now, in the middle of the aisle, water dripping from her clothes onto the floor, each drop echoing like a heartbeat. And that smell, damp, earthy like a flooded cellar. I wanted to speak, but my throat locked up. She took one step, then another. Her face, God, I still see it when I close my eyes, pale as chalk, mouth too wide, torn at the corners. And her eyes, no, not eyes, just darkness. Endless, bottomless darkness. I bolted for the driver's seat, slammed the pedal, and sped off. The radio came to life, but not with music. Whispers, soft, urgent, and under all that noise, my name. Over and over again. I drove without seeing where I was going. Rain, trees, road signs, all blurring together. Then, a light ahead, a bus stop, small shelter, one flickering lamp, an old soda machine. I stopped, breathing like I'd been drowning, opened the door, looked back. The bus was empty. No woman, no old lady, just muddy footprints and a wet seat. I stepped outside. The air was heavy, almost solid. I walked around, shining my flashlight. Nothing. But on the back wall of the shelter, scratched deep into the paint, I found words. She follows those who don't take her home. I didn't understand. I just got back in and drove away. At the next stop, police were waiting. Said they'd gotten a distress call from my number. One call, but I hadn't touched my phone. They played the recording. It was my voice whispering, "She's inside, help me." She's inside. I didn't remember making it. I quit the job after that. They said they later found the bus at a junkyard, doors locked from the inside, and on the windshield, written from within, in the fogged glass, "Last stop." Since then, I don't drive anymore. I live in a trailer on the edge of town. I don't go out after midnight. Sometimes when it rains, I hear a bus pulling up outside, headlights sliding across my walls, and through the rain, soft footsteps. Sometimes I think she's still looking for her way home. Sometimes I think maybe I never left that road. Maybe I'm just another shadow, stuck at my own last stop. A pause. Long, heavy. You've been listening closely, right? Want to know something strange? When I drove here tonight to tell you all this, I noticed a bus following me. No headlights. No license plates. It's still there now, parked behind your house. So if you hear knocking tonight, don't open the door. It's not the rain.